Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
It is such a fun talk. Good morning. My name is Ken St. John. I'm a 66-year-old cisgendered white man with tan skin, long gray hair tied back into the tail of a pony, and I have a scrappy little goatee. Kind of liked it when they did that at GA. Today, I am your associate in the pulpit, along with Noel and Barbara for this completely lay-led service. Last Sunday, I experienced Lisa and Lynn and Joel's excellent lay-led service. I intended to attend in person. I picked out a clean shirt. I pumped up my tires. I packed my change of shoes and was all ready to bicycle in. But at the last minute, I changed my mind. It's already running late, and it was already 98 degrees outside. So instead, I retreated to my home office to watch online. Soon I was completely put to shame when it was mentioned from the pulpit that Barbara Face here did bicycle. I'd like to begin the welcome this morning by speaking directly to the streaming video viewers seeing me through camera 4, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Valley Universalist Congregation. There are many reasons for joining the service virtually. I'm sure a few of you are relaxing in the cool shade of the pine trees up on the Mogollon Rim. Ann and Jerry, hi Deanne, Mary's right there. I had you down to say hi to though. But it doesn't really matter what your reason is. We are equally happy to have each of you with us. And that goes for those who are viewing the recording of this service at some later date. Thank you for being here. Last Sunday, I noted 2 advantages to watching the live feed. First of all, you can pause if you get interrupted, and you can rewind if your mind wanders and you miss something, which probably only happens to me, right? And second, no one can see you weep. And if you heard last week's sermon, why I say that. Now, you've probably noticed that there's a comment feature on YouTube. I've never used it, but I believe it's available to everyone. And if any of you viewers happen to be new to VUU, I encourage you to post a hello comment so that you can be warmly greeted to the other online congregants. Also in the comment section, you should soon be hearing Joanne Smith, today's remote lay pastoral care associate, who will be reaching out to anyone who would like to be connected with a synthetic living. All right, now we're going to switch to camera 1, which is up here so that you at home can have a look at your fellow congregants in the sanctuary. And now they can all acknowledge your resistance and give you a warm wave of a welcome. And we're going to keep it on this camera view for a little while this morning. Welcome the in-person crowd. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us as well. I'd especially like to welcome any newcomers or visitors who are with us in the room. If you choose to, this would be the time to briefly to be recognized and warmly greeted. Are there any visitors or first-timers who would like to say hello? There we go. Thank you. We're happy to have you. After the service, you're invited for coffee and snacks in the back of the sanctuary, and you're encouraged to visit the welcome op where visitors will be hoping for a chance to chat with you. Now, if Nancy Womer will please stand and wave. Thank you, Nancy. Nancy is our lay pastoral care associate on duty in the sanctuary today, and she will be available up front here after the service. There's just one more thing I'd like to do from camera one. Don, if you will, please zoom in on yourselves in the tech booth. I thought that folks at home would like a chance to see the team who has succeeded in making the online experience work so well. Today we have a full house back there with Ryan, Tom, Don, and I think Blake's back there too. Blake is the volunteer trainee. I'm sure everyone at home was applauding you in their hearts, and I know we're all very grateful for the work we do. Okay, Don, you've got the cameras. Now I'm done playing with fun with cameras. If Barbara would please to light the chalice for us as we read these words together. Chalice lighting words. We kindle the flame, symbol of our for the light of community and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice.
Morning. Thank you. My name is Barbara, and she, her, and I'm honored to be here this morning. The opening words in Invitation of Worship, the My Hero podcast, that's by Shankar Vedantam and NPR. It goes, the daily news can despair. We offer these unsung heroes as an antidote to that despair. Each ignores everyday acts of kindness and courage that transformed someone's life. Listen and renew your humanity.
Rise in body or spirit and join, and we'll sing Lean On Me. You're welcome to dance as well. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But we are wise, we know there's tomorrow. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
So now's a I wonder, why did I volunteer to do this? The title of I'm playing is called Fly Inga, which the without falling into causation. And it's based on a koan about a fox that how we are the same thing over and over unless we own our stuff. Our former settled minister this koan in an essay that was published in the UUA World magazine. And he writes, "We are what we do, and whatever we are, unless we notice and take corrective action, we just become more of it." So this piece is winsome, perhaps even a bit sad, because you can feel you can feel the heartache that comes with repeating the same thing with the same result, still tiring from the effort and being inspired to make great change. And so then Ford continues, cause and effect as much we, you and I, are moments in a great place, and a metaphor we Unitarian Universalists like is that we're bound together in an interconnected web of all existence. Everything is connected. That realization, we see that everything counts. Every action, every thought, consequences. We are what we do. I am what I do. You are what you do. And whatever we are, unless we notice, we to repeat. And so I hear that wisdom in this little song, and I hope you do too. Oh yes, sure. And while we invite you to take part in any of our meditation rituals. The song is short. If you prefer to sit while I play, we will have silence after and light a candle, do things with water and the fountain. I had to lighten things up a little bit because now this flute that's hard to play anyway, and I've completely jacked my so there's that. Okay, are we ready for this? Yeah. Thank you. I needed that. So the title of our service is My Unsung Hero, and it is a podcast at the end of the Hidden Brain podcast that is an NPR publication by Shankar Vedantam. I love the podcast, and I just love hearing the stories of my unsung heroes. Often I'm driving and these stories come on, and usually the teller of the story is also the one who has recorded the audio. So it's really, really touching. And I thought at this time in our civil lives, I'm just so worried about the coming months and how we may be further divided. And I thought there would be a good time to focus instead on the kindness and that we're all part of the human species. If I see a person fall down, I'm first not going to say to myself, I wonder if that guy voted for Trump. No, I'm just going to help them up. And so I invited some people to share an unsung hero story. And here's mine. 20 years ago, I was selected to assist the company I was working for on a project in the Philippines. Our job was to hire and then train employees to work in our call center. The Filipino employees were slated to work the overnight shift, whereas the US employees worked the day shift. That meant we trained in the dead of night. We were granted a long weekend on the 4th of July holiday, and I talked 3 of my coworkers into taking a trip into the heart of the Philippines. We were living in a hotel in Manila and Makati City on the main island, and our trip was to the resort island Boracay, which at the time was a tourist destination, even though this was before the Survivor season that took place on the same island. So during the time of our trip, US nationals weren't welcomed with open arms. In fact, every week there was a story of a kidnapping or some other violence against tourists. So as a result, the locals kept their distance on Boracay. But in spite of that, we had a magical weekend, not at one of the fancy resorts, but in a little cottage filled with lizards that was walking distance from a small village and the beach. It was our plan after the weekend to retrace our journey back to the main island, which had gone without a hitch the first time and required an airplane ride and get off the plane, ride on a motorcycle jitney, and then we got on a boat, and then we had to take a walk, and we were just going to retrace that. And everything was fine until we got to the little airport to make our way back to Manila. And when we approached, we saw outside the airport a plastic table like the kind Costco sells, and it was peopled by military personnel with machine guns. Somehow we hadn't noticed that before, but we were tired on the way there. And it was super scary because they didn't speak English, we didn't speak Tagalog, and we were just trying to figure out what they wanted. And so, 3 of us found the paperwork, but one of our coworkers, the youngest one, meaning that he was probably in his mid-20s, and he was a novice traveler. And he became unglued. He was immediately agitated and anxious, and he couldn't mentally get a hold of himself. And as the rest of us were handing over our travel identification and the other required documents, he babbled something that he had forgotten to pack one of the documents, and he was fumbling through his backpack, and then he started crying. Oh, gee, yeah. So the tension had increased so high between all of us involved. Like the table was standing on end. It was just, wow. Because we would probably have had to leave him there. We didn't know what was going to happen. And then suddenly, we heard a commanding voice right next to us. And the voice said, "Son, put your luggage on the ground and take everything out, now." And we all gasped and thought, like, who does that? But sure enough, my coworker dropped to his knees and he opened up every zipper bag in that pack, even though he had claimed he had looked through everything, and sure enough, the document appeared for him. And while he was handing over the document to the military people, you could just see all the tension just roll off his body. And we all breathed a sigh of relief and turned to say thank you, only to see the guy with the commanding voice disappear into the crowd. It has always been my belief that it probably wasn't the safest thing for him to do, but he did it anyway, and I'm just super grateful. Roz?
Good morning. Good morning. When Barbara asked me to do this, I said yes without hesitation. And then I thought, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? But I knew in my life there are many, many unsung heroes. My name is Roz Hawkins, and I use the pronoun she, her. There's been a constant truth in my life that has been my guidepost as long as I can remember. None of us operate in a vacuum. We are part of a universal system that requires us to take care of each other and the earth on which we reside. More times than I can elaborate here, I have been the beneficiary of that care, and whenever possible, I have also provided care for others. Normally, it is never the ones who have aided me that I've been able to help, which makes it even more imperative for me to carry that grace forward. As Barbara did, I'm going to go back a few years. And at the age of 19, I married my high school heartthrob, who was a few years older. Unfortunately, our marriage turned into a roller coaster ride with shaky high climbs only to be followed by jerky curves and turns and scary lows that felt like the bottom was falling out of our lives. Over time, under the shield of alcohol, my ex-husband became increasingly abusive, mentally and physically. He was in the Marine Corps, and we were stationed in California with no family support, and I felt lost and very alone. I feared for the safety of me and my children. A young lady I had met saw my fear and befriended me. Her name was Marilyn. She was beautiful, smart, and confident, a confidence I had lost in myself. She became my listening ear and a resource when I needed a ride, help with the kids, or just some friendly company. One evening, my husband left with our 2 young children and returned home alone. I could smell the alcohol, so I knew he was under the influence. Yet his behavior was exceptionally odd. When I asked about the kids, he told me a neighbor had agreed to watch them so that we could have some time alone. That wasn't really a good thing. In a relatively short period of time, he became erratic, then physically violent. He threw me to the floor, tied my hands behind my back, and tied my feet together. My head was swirling. I was helpless, and I didn't know where my children were. He physically carried me out to our car and put me on the back seat. I could feel the car moving, but I couldn't see where we were headed. When the car stopped, he took me out of the car, throwing me on the ground in an alley with no lights. He removed the binding from my hands and feet, then pushed me away from him, shouting obscenities at me. I did not know what I'd done to provoke his anger. It was dark, and I had no idea where I was, with no money and only the clothes on my back. Cautiously, I began to walk, and in a few blocks, I came to a Greyhound bus station. A Marine gave me a quarter to make a phone call, and I called Marilyn. Within less than 10 minutes, she arrived to pick me up. She consoled me and assured me that she would ensure my children, ages 3 and 4, were safe. She provided shelter for me that night, and the next day she took me to our house, and we found my husband passed out. I left with our kids. My nervous system was at an all-time high. Marilyn took me to a friend's house, an older lady who was caring for her elderly mother. She had an extra room and allowed me to stay there until I could contact my family. A woman I did not know gave us safe haven, food, and shelter, asking absolutely nothing in return. My ex never knew where I was, but Marilyn acted as a mediator for us to meet. I told him that I was not going to return to our home and insisted that he needed help. To my surprise, he agreed that he was out of control, blaming it on the alcohol. He told me he had consulted with a counselor and was going to go to an inpatient treatment program, but it would require me to go to Al-Anon. When he was admitted, I moved back home and began the Al-Anon program. Al-Anon also became one of my unsung heroes. I never saw Marilyn again after I left Oceanside, nor the woman who took me in for several weeks when I needed a place to stay. The lessons I learned through Al-Anon stay with me to this very day. My gratitude for each of these individuals and that program have influenced me to continue to pay it forward, because without the kindness of those earth angels, the unsung everyday heroes, I would not be here to speak to you today. Blessed be.
It is life-affirming to hear these stories about the abundant kindness of strangers. And I know it feels good to be the one who helped a random person in need, to have relieved some anxiety, simplified a troubled situation, or even saved a life. Right place, right time, do the right thing, right? But have you ever experienced a situation where you later regretted your words and actions? Really wished you'd handled it differently, and it haunts you for the rest of your life? Or maybe it's just me. I'm going to share a little different kind of a story. It's about a time when I had the opportunity to do a kindness for a stranger and passed it up. It's a story I don't think I've ever told anyone before. Maybe Janet's heard it, I don't know. I consider it a source of shame, so I suppose it's an opportunity to learn. So here goes. It's 1991, and I moved from Corvallis, Oregon to Phoenix with my first wife, Leah, and our 3 kids whose ages were 2 to 8. After a couple of years in the desert, we decided it was time that the kids got to play in the snow. One winter weekend, the opportunity arose. We packed everyone into our little Toyota Tercel hatchback, including our little lapdog Bart, and drove on up to Payson. There we frolicked in the shallow blanket of snow along a hiking trail just like we'd planned. Bart was born and raised in this valley, and he is a mix of Tibetan breeds with a long, fluffy fur coat. He belonged in the snow and had the most fun of us all. Afterward, we checked into a quaint little hotel for the night. Seemed to remember it had like a Bavarian theme, if you've been to Payson. We hung out in Payson the next morning until checkout time. In those days, you would take your metal key with its room number prominently displayed and walk up to the front desk and personally hand it to the clerk and sign your credit card receipt that they probably just imprinted in a machine that rolled over a piece of carbon paper. Sierra, my oldest, who was around 10 years at the time, accompanied me on this ritual while the rest of the family waited in the car with the motor running. As we were being helped, there was a woman in the room with her young daughter talking to another clerk who was attempting to get her some roadside assistance. She was stuck with a car that wouldn't start and needed a jump. The hotel staff didn't have the means, so they got on the phone to find help. I remember thinking to myself, I have jumper cables. And then I thought, I also have a tired wife and 2 more fidgety kids shivering in the car who want to go home. And I listened to the selfish voice inside of me and decided not to inconvenience me and my family of 5 and to let these nice people work it out for themselves. I remember exchanging a glance with Sierra. My face might have said something like, well, what are you going to do? And I imagined she was thinking, yeah, bad luck for them. And we finished and left and never spoke of it again. I regretted my decision as soon as I pulled out of the parking lot. It's not that I was worried about the poor victims of misfortune. Their help would probably be there in less than an hour and cost her less than $50 back then. My help would not have transformed their lives. It would have been a good feeling to have saved her from her inconvenience, but that wasn't my regret either. The real missed opportunity was to role model for my kids, to show them that when you have the opportunity to help ease someone else's misfortune, you should do it. The time and effort it takes is worth it when it benefits someone else far more. The glances my daughter and I exchanged at the checkout counter should have said, shall we help them? And yes, let's do it. I have a little postscript to this story. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was leaving the CVS pharmacy and I saw a Mustang parked next to my car with its hood up and a younger man talking on his cell phone. I said to him, well, at least you landed in a shady parking spot. And he replied, do you happen to have a pair of jumper cables? Yes, I do. I said without hesitating, would you like a jump? Oh, that would be so helpful, he said. I just need to get to the auto parts store so I can buy a new battery. 5 minutes later, we were both on our way. Of course, it didn't erase the mistakes of my past, but it did feel good to spend 5 minutes of my time to save him a heap more than that. And it all reminds me of something that I'm sure I've heard someone else say in the past. A great reason to help someone is because you can. The next feel-good story will come from Nancy Wittenberg.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Wittenberg. I'm a current co-chair for Caring Neighbors. I'm active in VIP, and I've been a member since 2005. My pronouns are she, her. My unsung hero is Sydney Bristow, the main character of a TV series, Alias. Yes, I know that ages me a little bit, and this red hair dye only covers my age so much. The show starts with a young Jennifer Gardner who is recruited out of college to work for the CIA to fight one enemy, the Alliance. Let me explain, I swear this is all connected. About 10 years or so ago, in what felt like out of the blue, my anxiety began to skyrocket. At that time, it seemed loudest when I was alone in my car. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Not long afterwards, I was in a chair at a life coach named Bonnie. We connected beautifully, and I valued her wisdom quite a lot. She suggested that when I have anxiety, I take the following steps. So please feel free to participate. If you have anxiety or are just willing to take psychologically based directions from a random realtor who has a degree in business administration, who suffers from clinical depression and anxiety, and is regularly driving around the valley. Yeah. Before we begin, you'll need to pick a hero. Think of someone in your life who you admire, who has that one quality that you don't, that bothers you the most about yourself. If you can't think of one now, feel free to borrow mine. Sydney Bristow, CIA Operative Extraordinaire. Step 1, close your eyes and take a deep breath. Step 2, with your eyes closed, pay close attention to your physical form. Where do you feel tension, discomfort, pain, tightness, lightness, softness? Your shoulders, stomach, neck, calves. Hold that spot, the one that first got your attention. Hold it in your mind. Focus on it without judgment. Breathe deeply. Now, thank your hero for bringing that part of your body to your attention, for protecting you in this moment, for being with you now, and offering you their guidance. Take another deep breath in. Open your eyes. How do you feel? Is that spot somewhat different? Obviously, you shouldn't use this exact technique when you're driving in your car. It will work with your eyes open, though not nearly as effectively, I must admit. Still, knowing you have your own hero to call upon at will is powerful stuff. That technique helped me gain silly control over my brain, thinking that continues to be effective during stressful times. So much so that I'm not even sure I've had the breath-inhibiting tightness since. My unsung hero is every bit as fake as my body's paralysis to some unperceivable threat, and fortunately for me, she has powers beyond my limitations. Thank you, Sydney and Bonnie, for supporting me to live a healthier life. Thank you all for listening and for being a congregation that I'm proud to be a part of. And now, Doug.
Mine's going to be a little bit of a caffeine-induced whirlwind tour. So I'll have a few slides, so if Tom in the booth can maybe just cue up the first slide. All right, good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about Jody Ninsel, my unsung hero. And she also happens to be my mother. Please don't tell anybody, I might be reprimanded for nepotism. But she was born to Jewish parents in Brooklyn, New York in September 3rd, 1937. Somewhere in her young adult life, she got involved in politics, volunteering for voting campaigns and starting her journey as a hippie, feminist, and social justice activist. Today, she would for sure be labeled as a woke, leftist, tree-hugging feminazi. I think we have some in the audience. I was born in 1961, the middle of 3 boys, after my parents moved from New York to California. My mother became a member of Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which was formed by Dr. King and other Southern ministers to organize the civil rights movement. Occasionally, my mother brought us to SELC offices to participate in printing bumper stickers, distributing flyers, and painting picket signs. Sometimes she would let us take a day off from school to join others in protest peace marches, rallies, and voting campaigns. In 1969, our family moved to Dallas, Texas. Yeah. There, my mother's remarkable talent as an artist became a powerful tool in promoting SELC's events. I have a few photos of my family and a few samples of her work that I'd love to share with you. So this one, you can see my mother at different stages and my 2 brothers and my father. You can see in one of them, I'm sporting a Starsky and Hutch mustache. Next slide, please. All right, so this first flyer is about a film Dr. King called Montgomery to Memphis. It had Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, and Charlton Heston. And that one I scratched my head on because if you've ever seen some of the film scenes and some of his gun. Anyways, so the next slide is another slide of the same film. And the next slide, so this is Al Lipscomb, and he was a friend of our family's, a good friend of my mother's, and running for city council. Next slide. In God We Trust, in Dallas We Starve, urging people to get in contact with Southern Christian Leadership Conference to get involved. All right, the next slide. Every Women's Center, where they had classes for women's history, literature, etc. Next slide. This was for a campaign, for a governor campaign for Ramsey Muniz. And next slide. So ethnic studies and Black history classes. Next slide. This was for 2 events. Unity Rally and Operation Breadbasket. Next slide. So this last slide, I think this is the last flyer. So this one was a collaboration. You can see at the very bottom it says in cooperation with the Black Panther Party, and it gives a number of other organizations, and it was to call for to freedom of Angela Davis and other political prisoners. All right, so so we'll stay on this slide for a minute. So we recently discovered a 1972 video of my mother giving a press conference in Dallas, Texas, supporting the NAACP's opposition of the Dallas Independent School District's Superintendent Nolan Estes, who was endorsing corporal punishment, which was not doled out fairly amongst different colored people. So these are some of the images from that video, which is on YouTube. Her speech included a quote that really stood out that's saying that Estes was succumbing to the desires of the oppressive and racist element of the power structure, thereby maintaining the status quo of Dallas, Texas, the all-American plantation. Yeah. So another vivid memory I have is of a 1973 march protesting the murder of a 12-year-old Hispanic boy. He was shot in the head by a Dallas police officer. He was handcuffed behind his back in the back of the patrol car, and the officer was playing Russian roulette with him, trying to coerce him to confess. So these are just a few of the memories I have of my mother's courageous activism. And in spite of these teachings, as a young adult, I became aware of my own subconscious racist and sexist prejudices. I finally confided this to my mother, who responded, we are all products of a racist society. And from that, I understood that we are all infected by these psychological diseases. It has poisoned all our minds. That allowed me to give myself some grace to continue my own personal transformation and then to help others on their journey to heal from racism. Though my mother passed away of cancer in 1995, she left an enduring legacy that has touched countless lives, and I will always be grateful for her impact. And now I want to thank you for helping me to uplift my mother just a little bit from her status as an unsung hero. Thank you.
Thank you, Roz, Nancy, Doug, and Ken for your awesome stories. And so I'm interested if any one of you who came today has a story you'd like to share. I have a traveling mic. Okay, cool. So say your name first.
Yes. Hi, I'm Rita Auer. The setting is 1958, February, in northern Minnesota. I'm 16 years old. My mother's pregnant with her 9th child. There's a knock at the door. It's the guy from the power company to turn off our power, our heat, and our electricity because my dad, who's an alcoholic, hasn't paid the bill. My mother starts crying. Oh, please. Did I turn it off?
It's still on. You just have to hold it.
Anyway, he didn't turn it off, and I learned sometime later that this man went back and paid the bill himself. My mother knew who he was. I, to this day, don't know who he was, but obviously he saved my family that day.
Thank you. A beautiful story. And there was Nancy next, and then someone back there, and then you.
Hi, I'm Nancy Wilmer, and I just wanted to let you all know, or just tell you about what happened. I've got two unsung heroes. So 4 years ago, I received a call for an organ transplant I very well needed. I was only going to live about 5 more years, and my liver was pretty much going. And so I also needed a kidney transplant because I have a genetic disease. So it just happened. I was on a call with a patient, and my transplant coordinator called me 4 years ago, June 18th, and I got a liver kidney transplant from some unsung hero. I've written letters to thank the family. Unfortunately, I had to have another unsung hero because 4 months later, my liver failed, so I needed to have I was listed again, but I have 2 families that I owe my life to. So I'm kind of a poster child for that. If anybody has questions about organ donation, please contact me. I'm around.
Beautiful story.
Hello, my name is Sheila Lopez. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and asan. I'm Navajo, and in our way, I'm supposed to introduce myself in my language. So, yat bene kia ani nishla dona kai bashish chin totsoni dashiche dona kai dashanale akot ego asana nishla. And that's just telling you where I'm from. My mom is Navajo from Greasewood, and my dad is Mexican from Winslow, Arizona, where I was born and raised. And in 1990, my senior year of high school, that's a long time ago, I had a hero counselor that called me into her office. Her name is Ann Fletcher, and she called me in and asked me what I was going to do after I graduated. And I had no idea what I was going to do, and I was also pregnant with my daughter. And she looked at my grades, and she said, "You have really good grades. You know, you can go to college." And it was 2 weeks before my applications had to be due, and I was accepted to ASU and NAU because of Ann Fletcher. and I'll never forget her. And the reason why I had good grades is another shero of mine, Sister Michael Claire Wilson, who has since passed. She always encouraged the Native students to do better, to try, do things that we thought we couldn't do. And it's because of her that I had good grades. She would take all the students that made honor roll at least 2 times in the first semester on a trip. And it's because of her I got to go to Havasupai Falls and hike the Grand Canyon and meet other Native students there. And I will never forget these 2. I wish I could see Ann Fletcher. I wish I could find her. I've been looking for her. Because since then, it took 7 years, but I received my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and have had, thank you, and I've had a 25-year career in engineering, and I've raised 3 children. They're now adults. My daughter's now a dentist. She followed in the path of getting a career and being an engineer as well, because she has her biomedical engineering degree, but went on to dentistry. So I really wish I could find Anne, because she changed my life. And I'm grateful for her, because growing up in Winslow, there was a lot of prejudice and racism. And she was a white woman. These were both white women that helped me. And I was hesitant at first because of how I was raised. Don't trust white people. Don't believe what's happening with them. And I'm so grateful that I didn't listen to that negative narrative that I had learned, because they both opened the doors for me. So I'm just really grateful, and I want to honor them today.
Okay, not unusually, I'm crying on the 4th of July weekend service.
Hi, I'm Debbie Joe. I don't know how many of you remember me, but I have a number of old friends here. I can say that because I'm old. Anyway, in 2021, I had a stroke. I woke up in a hospital bed with bars. It was my prison for the next year. When I was there were one of the things I looked forward to was the Amazon delivery. It was nice to get something new, something special. And there were other people I had a lady who came in once a week and washed my hair. That was such a treat. I had friends from long ago, Martha Strojan. I don't know how many of you know her. She's become quite a painter, and she painted me a picture of a chickadee. It was marvelous. So anyway, I started thinking of all these people and the sparkle they added to my life. And I started handing out geodes to them, because I felt they were all so special and wonderful. And I decided everybody sparkles on the inside. We don't always see it, but it's there. And I bought a bag of geodes, so you can come and get a geode for yourself, or maybe for someone who makes your life sparkle. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Beverly. I've been in this congregation for 22 years, and what I'd like you to all know is that I'm old. I come from a different era. I come from an era where I wasn't accepted by white people, and I wasn't accepted by black people because I was too black. And so I spent most of my childhood trying to find a place to be. And then I decided I don't have to find a place. I can just be a lone ranger and do my own thing and make my way through my life. And then I came here. I came to this place. I came to Valley Unitarian Universalist congregation. And in the beginning, it wasn't easy. As a matter of fact, I think a couple of people really left the congregation when I became president. But I chose to stay, and I am so grateful that I did, because this has become family. This is a place where I feel safe, where I feel seen, and where I feel loved. And I am very grateful for that, and I thank you all.
My name is Magnus Hawthorne. I'm going to stay seated so I don't faint. I will be 21 on Tuesday. I use he, they pronouns. I am a transgender queer man, and when I was 17, I made the decision to leave the abusive family and the cult that I was raised in. I reached out to my biological father, who had long since left the family, and he lived in Ahwatukee, and he said, I have a friend out here who has a guest house who she might be willing to rent to you. I had never known anything outside of the Midwest culture and the Catholic Church that I had been raised in, nor the family that had indoctrinated me into a racist, homophobic, anti-abortion woman destined to be a nun. So I reached out to this complete stranger that my dad only vaguely knew. And I said, I'm looking for a place to stay. So I flew out when I was 17 to meet her and see the house. I didn't know what I was doing. I was homeschooled. I had never left my community. I met this woman, and then 2 weeks after I turned 18, I packed up my entire life and drove 1,600 miles across country. I cut off all ties to everybody in my community. And this woman, she told me to call her mom. And when I disowned my biological mother, she's been the only mom I've ever really known, and the only mom who ever really loved and supported me. When I started hormone therapy, she gave me my first shot of HRT. She took me to my first pro-choice protest, and I didn't have the guts to tell her that I was still anti-abortion at the time, but that didn't last. She has become my mom. She took me here. When she suggested I go to church with her, I thought, absolutely not. But she got me involved with VUU and has given me a place to stay. And really, she doesn't charge me rent. So I live in her backyard and I watch her dog. And when I miss the life that I used to have, she holds me. And she never misses an opportunity to tell me how proud of me she is for being who I am and loving who I love. And my mother never gave me that. And Tammy always has. And she's not one to take compliments or accept praise, but she deserves it. So, yeah.
Thank you for adding those precious stories. It just warms my heart. And now we are going to sing. Ooh, I think we need that, huh?
Thank you so much for all those beautiful stories. It really touched me. Let's all join together in song, and you are invited to stand in body or spirit for Wo Ya Ya. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Wo ya ya, wo ya ya, wo ya ya, wo ya ya. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Wo ya ya, wo ya ya, wo ya ya, wo ya ya, wo ya ya ya, wo ya ya ya, wo ya ya ya, wo ya ya ya, ya.
Our closing words are written by a Unitarian Universalist layperson, and his or her name is H.G. Wenzel. It's from the little UUA book publication called A Chosen Place, An Introduction to Unitarian Universalism. Keepers of the dream will come again and again from what humble places we do not know, to struggle against the crushing odds, leaving behind no worldly kingdom, but only a gleam in the dark hills to show how high we may climb. Already there have been many such heroes, sheroes, women and men whose names we do not know, but whose words and deeds still light the path for us. Oh, gee whiz.
It's okay. We just swapped the order. We're good. It's time for us to take up the offering. If the ushers would please come forward. You know, oftentimes being a hero can be done with money. Like the story of the story Rita told of the power bill being paid by a compassionate stranger. So we, of course, need money to keep our mission rolling. So please be heroes to the extent you wish, and thank you for your generosity.
You can stay seated and join me if you like for another hymn for all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good. And for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with thanks and praise. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
All right, because we mixed things up a little bit, we're just going to go 2 songs right in a row. So we'll.
Or we can just skip the last song. I think that's a good place to
Okay.
And it's good.
You're going to miss out on Our Heart is in a Holy Place. But instead, we will extinguish our chalice now, and we can sing that after. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Thank you all. Go in peace. Have a great day.